Hello and welcome. Thank you all for joining us for tonight's pre-ride webinar for the second annual New York City to Philadelphia Greenway Ride, benefiting the East Coast Greenway Alliance. We cannot wait to ride with you in just 11 days. Bear with me just 1 second. All right, thanks so much. My name is John Martin, Director of Marketing and Communications for the East Coast Greenway. Tonight we'll share a route preview, daily timeline for the ride, travel details, a fundraising reminder, and much more. We'll have time to answer your questions at the end of the session, so please enter those in the comments section on Facebook or YouTube at any point. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our Mid-Atlantic Manager, Daniel Pascal, with an overview of the East Coast Greenway and a preview of the route.
All right, thanks, John. Yes, we are super pumped. We've done one of these before, just last August. Maybe some of you were on that. We're excited to bring on many new riders to show off all the greenways that we have and all the ones that are in the works from New York City to Philadelphia. So as you know, the ride itself, NYC to Philly, there it is. It's over 2 days. New York to Princeton the first day, Princeton to Philly. But zooming out, we wanted to just remind everyone sort of what the mission is, what we're working towards here. Thank everyone so much for all the fundraising that you've already done, that is going to be done. We really appreciate it. This really helps us in the region, connecting with different groups, different partner organizations, planners, agencies at the local level, state level. We can raise awareness of the East Coast Greenway, increase our capacity to be on the ground in more of these places. The trails are local projects, and so you really have to be on the ground. And we get to elevate all of the partners that we work with and the networks, both trails, but the social networks, the community networks that these trails really link together. And of course, we want to accelerate, increase the rate of time, the rate of trails per year that we can actually get constructed. We're not actually building them, but we are the advocates. We are trying to get more and more people prioritizing these projects so that we have more on the ground every year, so that each ride we do of this corridor, you'll actually see more trails. You'll get to ride more off-road, less with vehicles, more comfortably, and have more spaces for people just every day of the year in addition to these events. So want to dive into sort of quick overview of the ride itself. Is the first day is a little bit longer one, about 71 miles. If you're on road or off road, we have two options. Part of that route, as you can see, is that solid line, both on road and trail. And then there's parts where it actually diverges. We have the bulk of our ride is the DNR Canal towpath. So that's about 35 miles. Some of that is actually under construction, so we will be having to detour around part of that. But going down to Princeton and then continuing on the DNR to the DNL, which is another 10 miles of natural surface trail, on our way down to Philadelphia on that second day. It's a little bit shorter, about 55 miles. We end at the Delaware River waterfront, get to take a quick sojourn to Schuylkill Banks, which is actually new for this year. There's a couple other additions and slight edits. So if anyone's using the routes from last year, please just follow the signs on the ground. Those are the ultimate authority, but we will be releasing the updated route information in the coming days so that people can have it downloaded when they get ready to ride. So that's the overview. Lots of trail, lots of on-road, but now we'll jump back into sort of the East Coast Greenway Alliance and what this is all about. So the ride is raising money to help us achieve our ultimate vision. So that vision is a 3,000 mile long, traffic separated biking and walking path from Calais, Maine, all the way to Key West, Florida. That's connecting 15 states and the District of Columbia, 450 towns and cities, 25 major cities. And right now we achieved over 50 million rides, walks, and runs along these trails that we've been able to connect with partners, learn that data. It is the most visited park, linear park, in the entire country. And so we want that to only exponentially increase as we can connect these trails to each other up and down the coast. Next slide, please. So I wanted to acknowledge that well before all of this was made unwalkable, it used to be walked and still is by Native American indigenous people that have inhabited this land for a very long time. The Lenni Lenape that are in the region that we'll be traversing and riding have existed and still exist over the past 10,000 years. So we want to pay tribute to the legacy, the connections to the land, to the wildlife, to the nature that's there, and the heritage of the indigenous people that have occupied this land, so that we want just everyone to understand what you're connecting with. You're going through many different jurisdictional borders, but we're diving back into history through all of these pathways. Next slide, please. So this is sort of the X-ray vision of what is complete. The East Coast Greenway is a vastly, varied project depending on where you are. A number of these local trails might be familiar to some, but others, might be just small side paths here or there. They're all local projects. They're trying to, connect over this massive region. And so about 1,000 miles of that 3,000 miles is off-road already. So we've passed a third, and we're trying to get to halfway, have more trails for everyone to ride, walk, and run in the coming years. Next slide, please. And so the East Coast Greenway Alliance, like I said, we're not building the trail, but we are advocating. We are connecting people to this vision so that we're linking with partners at the local level, the state level, the regional and national level to advocate, plan, and promote this trail's development, its stewardship, and its enjoyment. So the programming of it is so critical to this, that you don't just have it built, you have to actually make sure it's connecting with people that are in communities that are right by the trail, make sure that people feel welcome, make sure that it's equitable, and that people have access to these facilities for not just recreation, but transportation, getting to and from where they need to go, which is a lot. And to do that, we have a team that's growing up and down the East Coast. We have regional staff throughout the different regions of the Greenway along the coast. And the yellow actual line there highlighting the position in New York and New Jersey is actually supported by this ride. So this ride is directly allowing us to increase our capacity, have more of those connections with folks advocating for these local projects, trying to inspire folks with this vision of a long distance trail, linking these communities together. Next slide. And just kind of a myriad of ways that we do that, connecting with people, really trying to listen to the needs of each community. That photo up there in the top left is from Southwest Philadelphia, Bartram's Garden. There's so many needs and issues around transportation, recreation, access to open space, all of these things that we want to hear through the community's words. How could a trail potentially support the needs of a community, engaging with folks out on the trail, whether doing a walking audit, you can see there, going on rides, of course, attending ribbon cuttings, just providing information, trying to educate about the benefits of these trails. Planning, which is a lot of it, working with people, whether digitally or in person, going through old documents, recent ones, making sure that people are aware of plans that are happening in their neighborhood, and just raising the call to action that we need these things elevated and prioritized. Next slide, please. All right, and this is also gets into the weeds, but we won't dive in too far. We try to balance showing off the Greenway now, as we have on map.greenway.org, but also we have the envisioned route plan, and so we're trying to help guide those that are more interested in the future of it, while trying to promote it to those that want to ride it right now. They want to walk on it right now. So that takes a lot of data gathering, benchmarking on sort of internally how far we've come, and presenting that out to the public. So we have state pages. You can see there the URL, greenway.org/states/whatever state. Along the Greenway, you can find more information about the Greenway in a particular area of the coast. And supporting partners, I mentioned before, this is huge. Again, to get something prioritized, you really have to show that it's supported by not just a couple of trail crazy individuals, but that the broader public sees this and sees the benefits of this. There's an example up in the Meadowlands. The Essex Hudson Greenways had some incredible wins. We're trying to support that effort, promote as much as we can, share, the different itineraries that are out there. There's lots of trails that exist now. Help people find their way to it. You can find that on our website, greenway.org/trips, and then advocate for more funding. We want these things to be prioritized as real infrastructure, things that aren't just an amenity or a luxury, but really core to the day-to-day lives of everyone living and working and playing in these 15 states and DC. And this is an example of, not all of the trails are through a forested area. A lot of the gaps that we're trying to get built are through arterial roads or suburban style developments where you don't have much provisions for people walking and biking. And even if it's not the most scenic, it might get you somewhere scenic. This is the Delaware River Heritage Trail that connects to the beautiful Crystal Lake, a Delaware River portion of the trail along Burlington County's part of the waterfront there. And it's now has an all abilities and all ages facility for people to walk and bike to and from the nearby towns. So this is the type of work, it might look like transportation sometimes, or it might connect you to recreation, comes in all types and forms, but we want it to be safe, accessible, and comfortable and equitable. And part of that is tapping into the larger networks that are growing around the regions. So in Greater Philadelphia, folks might have heard of the Circuit Trails. This is an incredible coalition and network of trails that are working together collaboratively to build out an 800-plus-mile trail network so that you might not live along the Greenway, but you could connect to it from the Schuylkill River Trail, the DNL, going up to New Hope and the Steel Towns, get down to Delaware. These are really what make this a practical reality, that you have options around every neighborhood, that someone has access within walking distance of their home and transit. And I think on the next slide, you can see how many different organizations, and this is not at all everyone, that we end up working with. It really is a patchwork of forming the quilt that we have to connect again locally with both for-profit, nonprofit, public agencies, regional entities, states, to make sure that they're all seeing the same vision, that they see the benefits, and that this is happening every year, documenting that progress. All right, finally, get to the good stuff. What does the route look like? Again, some may have seen it. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. Others might be new to this area. We're trying to document as best as we can. We know some parts change, but this is a kind of a snapshot of the different sections. So again, the first day, New York to Princeton, we're actually starting in Jersey City, Liberty State Park. You can see in my background, the promenade along the river. You can overlook the Manhattan skyline and Brooklyn and the Statue of Liberty. This will take you basically through Staten Island. So you hit your New York City portion of the New York City to Philly ride. We zigzag through northern Jersey. There's a number of really nice county parks before getting to the DNR, which is a state park, and then connecting down into Bucks County, again into Northeast Philly. There are some trails leading us into Center City. That's the recap. So for the first part, I wanted to show off again that this photo was from the opening of last year's ride in August. Hopefully, again, we won't have to deal with rain. There was some early on, but it ended up being actually pretty nice and also pretty cool for August. The really amazing part is having this bridge connect people over from Bayonne into Staten Island. It has a fully traffic separated shared use path. There are some roads where we're sharing space with traffic, so we really want people to be aware of this. If you're not comfortable with it, definitely check ahead of time. Figure out the route, look on Google Street View, see what the conditions are like. We want to make sure that everyone's prepared for this, is comfortable riding in traffic. You will be with other people, and that will help. We do ask for single file riding. We want to make sure people are giving turn signals. They're stopping when people are stopping. Basically, we have lots of etiquette. We would love to basically run through with everyone, which we'll do before the ride. We just want to keep everyone safe out there. We also have support vehicles along the way, rest stops, so we're there for you. The next big bridge is the Goethals Bridge that goes from Staten Island into Elizabeth. So that will be another really nice, also relatively brand new shared use path connection. These are the types of infrastructure, again, that we're trying to emphasize. And there are, like the roads in the top right, on the alternative, on the converse side, there are local streets that are much lower stress. This one leading into Merrill Park. So the next slide, you'll see some of the trails take you through those parks, really beautiful shaded paved trails. The Middlesex Greenway is another really awesome highlight. Needs to be much longer, but enjoy it while you're on it. It's a beautiful rail trail in Middlesex County. We have some on-road riding that's not as stressful as some of the parts of Elizabeth. It still has some space. Sometimes you wish there was an actual shoulder stripe there, but there is space for cars to pass. Again, at the really tough intersections, I'll say, we'll have police if it's really, really stressful, but we'll also have a number of volunteers that'll be out with vests. Some are actually on motorcycles, kind of taking up space at an intersection, really just asserting the presence of the ride to get people safely through those. And then we'll hit the Delaware and Raritan Canal, and that is a gorgeous, gorgeous trail right through central Jersey down into Princeton. Note that there's lots of fun, kind of adventurous, hopefully you can see it that way, parts of this trail, such as the spillways, that's in the bottom right. There's areas where the canal, actually, these are spillways for the water to spill over. If it's not totally wet outside, they'll be drier, but they'll still have these rocks that you'll have to traverse. Some are a little bit flatter, but a lot of them are bumpier. We highly, highly recommend everyone dismount. We'll have dismount signs for those spillways to keep people safe. But the rest of this trail is very rideable. But there are, conditions of that. Let's say if you're riding on wider tire type bikes, like a hybrid or a little bit wider mountain bike, you should have no problem on these trails. They're natural surface again. It will be wetter if it's rained in the days before or during the ride days. But if you're on skinnier tires, you'll sink into the surface a little bit. So I think on the next slide, we've got a little bit more detail there. It's such a varied surface. New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection is actively working on resurfacing this, which is fantastic. It's been battered a little bit by hurricanes, as folks close to the area know. But we've been out there in recent weeks, recent days. We'll be out there the days before the ride. We'll call out any trees that have fallen down, any ruts that are really bad. We'll have signs out there for folks. If there's an area that we miss somehow, just always take the precaution and dismount if you don't feel comfortable. We don't want anyone trying to be a hero here. This is a ride, not a race. We have anything from the crushed stone in the top left to sort of a sandy type aggregate right below that. There are parts that do puddle, whether it's rained recently or not. Those can be avoided. You can sometimes go, on the middle or on the outside, but do expect to get muddy. I would say don't think that you're going to escape totally without mud. But it's worth it because you can see in the top right there, this is a gorgeous path, again, through the Garden State. And it's really showing the garden part of that. But all that said, we do have alternate on-road routes paralleling the DNR towpath. So there are parts, again, you have to be comfortable riding in traffic. Some of those are a little bit more traffic, some of them are a little bit less. So it's a little bit of a mix, but again, it parallels the trail, and there is an opportunity actually after lunch to switch. If you are on road and you actually want to try out the trail, or maybe you're on the trail and you want to switch off of it, we have an opportunity to do that. Next slide, please. This is images coming into Princeton. There's a really nice boardwalk just outside, north of the town. You're on road going into the town up to the Y, where we have a campground and bike parking for everyone, even those not camping. And then we'll have the evening to go out into Princeton. There's a number of different partners and restaurants that are anticipating riders coming in. We'll have hopefully more information on the website about that in the coming days. It's just a really wonderful partner to have with the Y there, and just a nice space, even though you're still in the town, to camp out with friends, or take the hotel or the B&B nearby. So that's the overnight. Next slide. And south of Princeton, there are parts again that get a little sandy, can get a little slow, a little sluggish, especially if it's been raining. But again, all rideable if you have maybe slightly wider tires, either wide tires on a road bike or an actual hybrid and fuller. There's parts where it actually turns into 2 single tracks, like the tire tracks of a car. And some of those, one track will be more ridden in, and then the others you have to choose. In this case, we were riding in the rain. Choose the puddle, or do you choose the bumpier, less wet part? So again, just prepare for natural surface type riding, because we're hoping for the weather that's in the bottom middle picture. And then again, there's also issues in some crossings where we'll have safety help out there. This one in particular, we want to call out. This is Whitehead Road. This is one of the projects that we're advocating to get safer measures implemented. This is just a really wide crossing, and we really, really beg for caution. And look out for the fellow police officer that will be out there. Make sure you're just following what they're saying, and we'll get you across safely. But for the most part, you're on safe trails, totally separated from traffic through there. And then coming into Trenton, we're really excited to actually have a rest stop in Trenton. That's the William Trent House on the top middle there. This is right before crossing between New Jersey and Pennsylvania. This will lead you to the Delaware and Lehigh Trail, which is another canal towpath, another beautiful trail, about 10 miles, of which actually everyone will be riding on, and road bikes can definitely ride on this. The surface is more supportive of skinnier tires, so don't fret, even if it rains. Been out there on road bikes, and that will get you to Bristol. We have a rest stop there. There's some really nice forested roads, though they don't have as much of a shoulder on State Road following the Delaware River. So again, make sure that you're working with everyone to stay single file, signaling to cars, just being visible and predictable. And then I think the next one gets us to Philly. There's some trails along the Delaware River. That's the Pennypack on the Delaware in the top left, one of the most beautiful sites along the river that we have already. We're trying to link that again down the river all the way to Philly eventually. In the meantime, we do have an on-road route. A lot of that is on Torresdale Avenue and Aramingo. Those have bike lanes, but of course, this is a city, a very urban area. There's double parking. There's cars that are, turning without looking. So just make sure that you're looking out for all of these vehicles doing unpredictable things. Never assume that someone sees you. Again, ride as safe as you can. There are a lot of stoplights. That might be a little frustrating, but it is important for everyone's safety. Please stop at the stoplights. Getting us into Fishtown, where it gets a little denser, you see in the top right, there's a lot of just narrow streets, very pretty, very slow moving traffic, which is good. And then finally, we actually get to feature the Schuylkill Banks, and that's the picture in the bottom middle, before heading back across Center City, seeing some of the beautiful neighborhoods through Old City, getting you to the Great Plaza at Penn's Landing. In the top, tiny 2 photos there on the bottom left and right. We're sandwiched between Penn's Landing and the Spruce Street Harbor Park, both of which will be open. So lots of festivities will be happening where we're ending, and also on either side of us for after the ride. It's a really wonderful spot along the Delaware, and we're super excited to end there. And ride signage will be out along the entire route. Look for these arrows. We'll have riders we'll be telling riders that there's a turn coming up, as well as if you've missed the turn, we'll have these signs on the right there saying that you have missed it. You need to go back. If you don't see turns for a while, it's good to check the number on your wristband. We'll have support. An operator will be there, can help guide you back to it, can connect you with a support vehicle if you really need. Look for other fellow riders. We'll have some ride marshals out there to help people navigate. This is a group effort. Not everyone makes every single turn immediately, but everyone does get to where they need to go. And so those signs are all out there to help out, as well as to alert drivers that there are riders on the roads. Next slide. So we have the map. That's our current route. This is not the exact route of the event, because some of these turns and different parts of the route don't actually work for a massive group of hundreds of riders. So this is more of just a guideline to show you generally where we are going. Again, there are some detours around parts of the canal, but look out for more information on the exact routing. And then finally, the real route is the one that's signed, because even within the 24 hours beforehand when we're signing it, there could be some construction or some issues that, from weather or any other kinds that could change the route of that. So use lots of different means to help you navigate. All right, so I think I'm handing it over to Eric with Global Impact to take us through the daily timeline.
Terrific. Daniel, thank you so much. My name is Eric Epstein. I am the president of Global Impact Productions. We're the folks who have partnered with the Greenway. We're so privileged to be able to produce this ride on behalf of the East Coast Greenway Alliance. We are really excited that you're here tonight. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being on the ride in a week and a half. And thank you for your engagement, for just really, I've seen great questions already in the comments, and we've been hearing from you over the last several months. Thank you so much for being as involved and invested in this cause as you are. We really appreciate it. And it makes a huge difference in the success of the Greenway's mission. What I want to do is take you through the calendar, the schedule for the weekend, and just get you oriented a little bit about what your days are going to look like. So I'm afraid it's Friday the 13th, but on Friday, May the 13th, we will be kicking things off with two simultaneous events, one in Philadelphia and one in New York. In New York City, from 3 till 7 p.m., we'll be offering early check-in for all riders. That's going to be held at REI in Soho in Manhattan. You can think of it as your first New York portion of the New York to Philly ride. And if you are in the New York area, or if you're coming into town the day ahead on Friday, we really encourage you to come in for that early check-in on Friday. It's a little bit more casual paced. You don't have to, worry about rushing through, but be ready to get on your bike and so forth. So if you're able to do it and check in on Friday, great. If not, no worries. At the same time, anytime between 3 and 7 p.m., there will be bike drop-off for those of you who are shipping your bikes from Philadelphia to Jersey City in advance of the ride. We do have space, by the way, on our bike shipping and on our shuttles. That space still available. And so you can visit your pre-ride guide online if you want to book that. There's still time, but please do that this week. So basically any time between 3 and 7 p.m. you can swing by, and the bike shipping truck will be parked there, and you can drop it off. Saturday, the big day. If you are in Philadelphia and taking our shuttle up, you have a very early morning. 5 a.m. the shuttle bus will arrive and load in Philadelphia, same location as the bike shipping the afternoon before. It's just outside of the Great Plaza. And the bus will take off at 5:30 and head north to Jersey City. The idea is that bus will arrive right at 7 a.m. If you've taken that shuttle, when you get there, your bikes will have already arrived if you shipped them the day before, and they'll be there smiling and happy to see you. For everybody else, 7 a.m. is the time to get there, to check in if you did not already do so on Friday, and get yourself ready to start riding. Each of you can actually see this rider here on her right. She has her rider number on a card, which she's attached to her bike. Normally, people will attach it to the crossbar on the bike rather than the handlebars, but I guess either one works. And That way we'll be able to identify both you and your bike throughout the weekend. So we'll want you to do that when you get there on Saturday morning. We will have breakfast for everybody. And at 8 a.m., we will have the opening ceremony right there at Liberty State Park. It'll be about 30 minutes. A very, I think, inspiring ceremony led by Niles, the deputy director. And then at 8:30, we'll sound the opening bell and away we'll go. You'll get started on your ride. The route is open until 6:30 p.m. in Princeton. We do ask everybody to be in by 6:30. But if you're doing the math, as Daniel mentioned, it's about 71 miles on the first day. So if you're riding 10 miles an hour, that still leaves you about 3 hours for lunch to get in. So you should have, point being, you should have plenty of time to do the route on the first day, and you do not need to rush at all. But enjoy all the beautiful scenery, enjoy all the parts of the Greenway that have been completed, and you'll have time to navigate all the rest of it as well. On Sunday, we'll have breakfast available at the Princeton Family Y beginning at 7 a.m. We do ask everyone to gather at the Y at 7, regardless of where you're staying on Saturday night. The reason for that, there are a couple of reasons. One is that at 8:15, we're going to have some brief remarks. During those remarks, we're going to have one or two special guests. The mayor of Princeton is coming. And then you'll also get to hear from me, which of course is everyone's highlight, as we talk about some of the things you need to know that you'll be seeing on the road that day, and to help you navigate more safely. The route will open at 8:30, and you'll have from 8:30 until 2 o'clock to continue riding to make your way into the closing ceremonies in Philadelphia. The closing festivities will begin at noon. So for our faster riders, we will have activities for you starting at noon, including lunch, which will be served there, including a wine garden this year. It's a new thing we're adding. There will be a wine garden hosted by our partners at Connoisseur Vineyards. So there'll be lots of fun things going on. Some partner tents, merchandise tent, some good music. So lots of things to enjoy. At 2 o'clock, we'll have a closing ceremony, some closing remarks at the Great Plaza with this beautiful view of the Delaware River waterfront. And then as the afternoon goes on, for those going back to Jersey City, these times are kind of important. The bike shipping truck will depart at 3 p.m. So if you've rented a bike for the weekend, or if you are shipping a bike back to Jersey City, that bike needs to be on its truck by 3 o'clock. You'll get another hour to relax in the wine garden and in the closing festivities area, while the bike shipping truck makes its way up to Jersey City and unloads. That will ensure that by the time you get back up there on the bus at about 5:30, we will have had a chance to unload your bikes from that truck and have them ready for you. So the way it should work is your shuttle will arrive in Jersey City at about 5:30. You will literally hop off the bus, grab your bike, and off you go. If you have parked at the Park and Ride in Jersey City, that's where everything's going to get dropped off, and you literally can just wander over to your car and load your bike into the car, and you're on your way. We do want everyone to retrieve your bikes if they've been shipped by 7 p.m. So that we don't leave our staff in a parking lot all night. So any bikes that aren't picked up by 7, we will take with us. And so that is the schedule for the weekend. Wanted to talk a little bit about some lodging and travel options. Many of you hopefully most of you have already made your arrangements, but let's take a look at what some things are that we still have available. So as I mentioned before, if you're looking to do bike shipping or take a shuttle from Philadelphia to Jersey City, we do still have some spaces available. We do ask you that you do that this week by checking out the travel planner online. If you're staying in Jersey City at a hotel on Friday night, there are some of you have booked rooms at the Canopy by Hilton. I believe the Canopy is just about full, but the Courtyard by Marriott in Jersey City does still have rooms. If you call the phone number on there, you can make that reservation and still get that room on Friday night. On Saturday, the hotels are filling up. We do have some rooms that are still at the original discounted rate that we have available. We're holding on to them at the Westin. If you would like one of those rooms, the thing to do is to email us at NYC-to-PHL@greenway.org. John, maybe you can pop that email address into the comments, NYC-to-PHL@greenway.org, and folks can reserve through us a room at the Westin. If you're having any issue with the Courtyard in Jersey City, send an email to the same place. We'll help you get hooked up. Next slide. Great. So here are the bike shipping and shuttle pieces that I talked about earlier. $60 to get the bike up, $45 to get you, because we all know that the bikes are the more valuable thing, right? So we have bike shipping available 2 different times, pre-ride on Friday or post-ride on Sunday after the closing ceremony. And again, the shuttles for you, pre-ride actually are at Saturday morning and post-ride on Sunday afternoon. All right, I think is that all that I have? Let me check my notes. No, it is not. I do want to remind you to submit your forms. You have probably been getting harassing emails from Blake and Mary Page. We love when they do that, to remind you to send in your medical form, your medical waiver, a copy of your COVID vaccination card, and your policies and protocols. Can you turn those in when you check in on either Friday or Saturday of next week? Yes, but you'll have to wait in a line to do that. If you send them in ahead of time, specifically send them in this week so that we have time to get them registered and accounted for, that'll allow you to skip at least 2 different lines when you get to check-in. So we strongly recommend that you get these forms in this week. Finally, we still could use some more volunteers. We have a handful of spots left for our 2-day crew. If you have a family member who is interested in accompanying you for the weekend, but maybe they don't ride a bike, they can help out and they can see you throughout the weekend. They can stay with you on Saturday night. It's all good. They can join our 2-day crew. Just head to the website and they can sign up. In addition, we could really use some more 1-day volunteers at the event. And in particular, we're still really looking for more volunteers in Philadelphia. So if you're in the Philly area, if you have friends who would like to volunteer or who might be encouraged to volunteer, they can sign up on the website or they can email us. We can answer questions, but we do very much still need some more volunteers, particularly in Philadelphia, although also in Princeton and in Jersey City. So with that, I'm going to wrap and pass it over to John to talk about fundraising.
Thanks so much, Eric. And thank you, Daniel, for all that important and valuable information. I'll run through a few last minute things quickly, and then we will get to your all important questions. So in terms of fundraising, we're off to a great start. Because of you guys, we're closing in on $120,000 raised in support of our work to grow the Greenway. So we couldn't do that without each of you. So we're very grateful for your support and all you've done so far and will continue to do. So just as a reminder, our deadline to meet your fundraising minimums is Monday, May 9th. So you've got a few more days if you're not quite there. That is $600 for a standard rider and $1,200 for premium. So for those, if there's anyone who is short of reaching their fundraising goal, your credit cards will be charged on Tuesday, May 10th. So 1 week from today. So just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. If you have questions about fundraising, feel free to email our fundraising guru, Mary Paige McLaurin, at marypage@greenway.org. So we have some great fundraising incentives that many of you have already qualified for. So we have, again, some awesome ride socks from Primal. Those are in stock now and looking great. Those are for riders who raise $1,000. Daniel has been sporting the incentive T-shirt, which is new this year. It's a tech T-shirt produced by Kraft, which we're excited to add this year. Those turned out really nicely, and those are for $1,500. So those of you who have earned incentives, we will have those for you for pickup on site at check-in. And there are more incentive details online on the website. And of course, merchandise. We were blown away with the interest in merchandise last year. We are better prepared to meet your merchandise needs this year and have had a lot of pre-orders, which is great. Pre-orders will be available for pickup at check-in as well. We still have those items online now. If you're interested in pre-ordering, we just ask that you do so by Friday. And then obviously we will have items for sale on site as well. So we've got jackets, jerseys, the socks, water bottles, which are new this year, and some East Coast Greenway gear as well. So you all have an opportunity to look good during the ride and after. And then just a couple other items. We have a Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/NYC-to-PHL Ride. Encourage you to check that out. It's a great way to coordinate with your fellow riders, kind of get tips on bike and equipment checks and recommendations on things to see in the host cities. So that's a great resource there. And of course, we would love for you to share your ride in advance and during the ride weekend across our social media channels. You can see the handles there for Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and our hashtag for the ride, NYC-to-PHL Ride. So again, we'd love to see your photos there, and we would love to share those from our accounts as well. And then last but not least, just want to offer a thanks to our ride partners, which you can see there on the screen. We couldn't hold this event without them, and you'll have the opportunity to enjoy many products from them during the ride weekend, and we definitely encourage you to support them when possible. So again, thanks for tuning in. We will take your questions now. So if you can bear with me just 1 second, I will pull up all of our ride team here, and we will dive in on those. All right, so in addition to Eric and Daniel, who you just heard from, we have Jonathan Pauly, who is our active events manager at the East Coast Greenway, joining us for this ride, and Mary Paige McLaurin, who I mentioned as our fundraising contact. So I'm going to scroll back to the top of these questions here, and there are definitely a few themes. So I think, why don't we dive in first on the questions about what types of bikes. So I think these are probably best for either Daniel, Eric, or Jonathan. Feel free to speak in at any point. First question from Robin: if I only have a road bike, will that be okay on the trail sections?
I would say that the road bike is not ready for the DNR. The DNL, you can actually ride a road bike on. It's not, the fastest, but the DNR definitely has parts of it that you will be going very slow. If there's muddier parts, some parts have looser gravel that you'll sink into with a skinnier tire. If you have a road bike with much wider tires that are closer to a gravel bike tire, the tire is the really important part. There's personal levels of tolerance for just how slow you're going or bumpy it is on a skinny tire. So, you can do it, but it might not be as fun. So that's I don't know. Others might have thoughts too, Eric. Or
no, I'd 100% agree. Daniel and I and Eric all rode the ride about 3-4 weeks ago. And we had a variety of tires with us, and it actually rained while we were doing the ride. And I'd say the trail held up really well. But I had a gravel bike. Daniel was on a foldable bike, and Eric was on a hybrid bike. And with the bigger tires, we handled that really well. Daniel was probably the only one that was a little bit challenged on his folding bike. But with the right skill level, I think the most of the towpath is rideable. But I would definitely recommend a 32C or bigger, or a gravel tire.
I would say I agree with all of that. I've also done it on a road bike as well as a gravel bike, and the only correction I might, or change I might make to what Daniel said, is it's not so much that your road bike isn't ready for the DNR, it's that the DNR isn't quite ready for your road bike at this point. Hopefully at some point they'll get it fixed, and it will be.
Yeah, I mean, they are resurfacing it, and there's parts that are improved. There's also parts that when they resurface, they have to put coarser gravel down for their vehicles to go over. And so sometimes that gets left. So you end up with, 12 or 15 types of gravel and crushed stone. So there's no one sort of surface at this moment. One day, hopefully, it'll all be fine, smooth.
Keeps it interesting.
And the folding bike was a Brompton as well. So you can do it, but again, I'm more masochistic in some parts, so I can take on some of the bumps. It's not ideal, but you can do it.
That was the next question I was going to go to with the Brompton, but I know we had some riders last year complete the ride on the Brompton in addition to Daniel's. Another question kind of along those lines: how about gravel tires on a road bike? Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally. If it's as long as your clearance at your fork and your back chain stays or has enough clearance, then I'd say put as big a tire and as much tire tread traction as you can want to ride on a road, because the most of the ride is actually on the road. So I have a gravel tire that has a smoother middle. It allows me to ride on the road, but then gives me lots of knobbies on the edges to give me better traction in the turns.
Great, thank you. I had some questions, a lot of questions actually about the route files. Obviously, we do plan to share those on Ride with GPS. There will be both the trail route and the road route options. Question about a GPX file specifically. I believe that can be exported from Ride with GPS. Does Daniel, you're nodding your head. Do you believe that to be the case?
That is my understanding, but
okay.
I have been wrong before.
Okay, but again, we'll check into that. But again, we really want to stress that you rely on the on-road signage that will be there, because again, there could be last-minute changes, and we really just ask that you use the routes that we share in advance, kind of for planning purposes only.
The other thing I would say is, if you're feeling a little anxious about getting lost, bear in mind that we have 4 ways to keep you from getting lost. There's the Ride with GPS maps that you can download ahead of time. There are route cues, printed route cues that will be available for everyone to take each morning on the event. You'll get the cues for that day's event, 1 set for the on-road and 1 set for the trail. There's all the signage that Daniel showed you pictures of on the event that'll be really all over the place. And then there's the wristband with a phone number. If those other 3 things fail you, there's the wristband with a phone number to get you help. So you're really not going to be stranded.
Okay, great. We've got a lot of food questions, which is always very important. So most importantly, Joe asked cheesecake and cheesesteak, and we can confirm, we heard you riders from last year, we will have cheesecake at the start to fuel your early morning ride, and cheesesteaks at the finish. And we will have vegan options as well for those who prefer that. So along those lines, we have several other questions in terms of what meals are provided and what type of food and beverage will be available at the rest stops. If maybe Eric, you could speak to that.
Sure, absolutely. So we'll have a light breakfast on Saturday morning, kind of a continental breakfast for you on Saturday morning. We actually have a coffee donor, which we're very, very excited about. So you will be caffeinated for your ride. And then the Oases will have, in terms of beverages, water and Gatorade. If you prefer a different electrolyte solution, we also have a donation that Jonathan, I think, can speak to.
Element,
yeah, which will be available sort of throughout those are packets that are available throughout the route. But if you have your own that you like and you mix into water, bring it with you. We'll have the water for you to dissolve it in, but we won't necessarily have all the different, Noom and all the different varieties of electrolytes. We will have Gatorade. In terms of snacks, there will be fresh fruit. We will have Amrita bars, which some of you will remember from last year. They've been donated again for this year. I actually just got confirmation today that we'll have Cabot cheese, which is being donated for the rest stops. That was pretty popular, went pretty quickly. We actually have, for the second day, we have fresh apples being donated from Terhune Orchards in outside of Princeton. So that'll be fun. And then we'll have other prepackaged snacks at the oases. At the midday on day one, we will have a box lunch for you, sandwich, some sort of carb salad. I think it's like a potato salad or some such thing. There'll be fruit again, dessert, brownies, I believe, at the lunch. Dinner on Saturday night, you will be on your own. The campsite is just a couple blocks from downtown Princeton, and I think Daniel talked about the options for restaurants who are partnering with us on that. Sunday morning, we'll offer breakfast at the Y in Princeton just before we do our announcements and open the route. And those are going to be, I believe, bagels with cream cheese and, well, with or without cream cheese, depending on whether you're vegan, and egg sandwiches. And then, as was mentioned, the cheesesteaks at the end for lunch at the closing ceremony.
Thanks, Eric. A couple other rest stop questions. If we could maybe, folks have asked how many on each day, and then how many of those also have bathroom facilities available?
So on the first day, there are 3 oases plus lunch, so 4 stops total. On the second day, there are 3 oases, and then the closing ceremony. There are always bathroom facilities. Every oasis, we have bathrooms and sinks, which is something we started doing in the age of COVID, so that you're able to wash your hands for 20 seconds after you use the facilities, even if there are portable toilets.
And bike mechanic support is also.
We have great bike mechanic support this year. We've got a bunch of mechanics, including a pair coming from REI, our sponsor. So we're excited about that. And we have a couple of other bike mechanics as well. So for the most part, they'll be stationed at the oases. If you have an issue, the sweep will carry you to an oasis where there will be a bike tech, and they'll be able to help get back on the road. We do have a handful of other mechanically oriented people who will be out on bikes on the road, who will be able to assist should they come upon you.
I just want to reiterate that each participant should come with 1 to 2 spare tubes and have the ability to change their own tire irons, some inflation capability, either a pump or CO2s. That's sort of a minimum. If a chain tool, a little multi-tool of some kind, where you can tighten up bolts or put your chain back together. Those are great things to have so that you're not standing on the side of the road for 30 minutes or so waiting for either one of our roaming support vehicles, a rider, or you get stuck between 2 oasis stations. Your bike should be in really good repairable service condition when you show up, which means that your chain is lubed and your brakes are adjusted and nothing is loose. There will be mechanics at the start line, right, Eric?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, and they can take a quick look at what you're doing. Make sure that you get your bike serviced before you come, because if you break a derailleur, then there's not too much we can do about that. That kind of stuff.
And I would just sort of emphasize, mechanic support at the start if you've shown up and something you didn't expect was tweaked on your bike, but don't come expecting to get your bike tuned up at 7 o'clock Saturday morning, please, because we won't have that opportunity.
We have a few questions that have come in about gear transport. If we could speak to that, both going from on day 1 and day 2.
We have an entire crew team dedicated to carrying your gear. So when you arrive at Liberty State Park on Saturday morning, you will get in your registration packet, you'll get a little luggage tag that you will, with a loop that you will attach to your bag. For those of you who are doing early check-in on Friday, you can do that Friday night before you show up and just have it ready to go. All you need to do is drop that bag with our gear team. It will arrive at the Princeton Y, the campsite, at the end of the first day. It'll be there waiting for you, unloaded and sorted when you get there, and you just pick it up and go where you need to go with it. You'll bring it back to the Princeton Y the next morning. So if you're staying in one of the hotels, bring your bag back to the campsite. And again, it will be carried to the clothing ceremony. I think I'm going to hit a couple other questions while we're on this about your gear and your bike and everything in Princeton. We will have bike parking in Princeton where we encourage folks, even if you're staying at a hotel, we would encourage you to leave your bike with us overnight so that you don't have to ride in the dark. There's not great street lighting in Princeton at night. So it's basically a basketball court with a giant cage around it. So it gets locked at night. It's all secure. You don't need to bring a lock with you for that. That will be waiting for you when you come back in the morning. We will have shuttle buses that will be going from hotels from the campsite to the host hotels between 3 and 7 p.m. And they will be returning back to take you back to the Y from the host hotels, I believe starting at 7 o'clock on Sunday morning. So it's pretty seamless.
That's great. We got time for just a couple more before we wrap up. Have a question. So a couple of questions about how many riders are participating. We've got about 300 total participants for the weekend, and that includes riders and volunteers. So we're about 200 and some change riders right now, and then obviously a large group of volunteers that help make this event possible. So if you have friends, family, coworkers who have been considering riding and have not signed up yet, we would encourage them to do so by Friday. That is our deadline, but we would love to add more riders at this point. Yeah, so feel free to share that website, and let's add more riders out there. But we're excited about it. It's going to be a great event. There were some questions about differences between last year and this year. We actually have. We'll share a link in the comments that outline 5 of those. But we have a new finish location. We have the new rest stop. We have finisher medals this time for the first time. We have new merchandise, and we have cheesecake and cheesesteak. So lots of exciting additions to this year.
I wanted to add in that I saw some follow-up questions. I know we talked a lot about the gravel tires and wider tires. If you just have a road bike, we have a road route for you that's parallel to the natural surface. So there's only one section, a short, very rideable on-road bike section of the DNL trail, which is different than the DNR. But other than that, there's a parallel paved road route throughout the entire thing.
That's great. All right. Well, thanks for everybody who joined us tonight. Thanks for all the great questions and engagement. We're so thrilled to be riding with you again in just under 2 weeks. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to send those via email. Again, NYC-to-Philly@greenway.org, and we will be happy to assist as best we can. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you at Liberty State Park soon.